The night smelled of smoke. At the center of the dead land stood a wooden cross, its edges burned and splintered. And to it they tied a girl, Clara Hensley, 23. Her dress was torn, her wrists bled where the rope bit through skin. The townsfolk surrounded her, faces lit by trembling lanterns. Old men clutching rosaries, mothers covering their children's eyes, boys holding rifles too heavy for their hands. Someone shouted, "She brought the silver curse back!" Another, "If we burn her, the land will breathe again." Clara tried to speak, her voice cracked. "It's just my grandmother's bracelet." But fear never listens. They circled her, pouring salt around her bare feet, muttering prayers that sounded more like curses. The wind rose, carrying dust, ash, and memory. 20 years ago, this same ground had burned. 3 families gone before dawn. No one spoke of it since, until she came wearing that silver band. Lightning flashed. For a moment, the bracelet gleamed bright, almost alive. Gasps, then silence. High above on the ridge, a lone rider sat still. Elias Ward, his coat heavy with dust, his eyes hollow from too many ghosts. He had watched this madness before. The same field, the same screams, the same kind of fear. Back then, it was his wife and daughter at the center of the flames. His horse shifted beneath him. Elias whispered, voice barely a breath, "Not again." Down below, a man lifted a torch. The flames swayed, hungry. Clara closed her eyes, whispering a prayer no one heard. And as the firelight reached her face, a single gunshot cracked the night. The torch fell. The darkness swallowed everything. Before we find out what happens next, tell me, what time is it where you're listening from? And if you want to ride along for more tales of courage, subscribe now. Now, let's see what waited for them in the dark. The echo of the gunshot still trembled through the valley when the rider came down the ridge. Elias Ward rode slow, not like a hero, not like a man rushing to save, but like someone who already knew what would happen if he didn't. His old horse grunted against the wind, hooves sinking into mud where the fire once burned years ago. The townsfolk froze when they saw him. The ghost of Ward Ranch, they called him, a man who lost everything in the fire, who spoke to no one, who built his cabin where even the wolves didn't go. "Drop it," he said, voice low, steady. The man with the torch hesitated. Elias fired once into the sky. The blast rolled across the field like thunder. The torch fell. Sparks scattered over the dirt, dying fast. "Untie her." No one moved. Fear again, but this time not of Clara, of him. He dismounted, boots crunching on salt and ash, and cut through the ropes with his knife. Clara collapsed forward. He caught her before she hit the ground. Her head fell against his chest, faint breath trembling through her lips. "I ain't no savior, girl," he muttered, brushing the dust from her face. "I just can't watch another burn." He lifted her onto his horse and rode toward the dark line of pines beyond the fields. Behind them, the villagers didn't follow. Maybe they thought the curse had found its keeper. By the time he reached his cabin, the wind had calmed. The place stood half hidden by trees, roof patched with tin and hope. Inside, the air smelled of smoke, leather, and time that refused to move on. Elias laid Clara on a worn cot, covered her with an old blanket, and lit the fire. The flame crackled softly, painting her pale face in gold and shadow. That's when he saw it, the bracelet. Silver, small, carved with a flower pattern he knew too well. He reached out, hand shaking slightly. His daughter once wore the same. For a heartbeat, the world tilted. He sat back hard, eyes closed. God, not again. A faint voice pulled him back. "Why did you save me?" Her eyes were open now, tired, frightened, but alive. Elias stared into the fire. "'Cause 20 years ago," he said slowly, "no one saved mine." The room went quiet. Only the wood popped and the rain began to fall outside. Then a sound. Hooves, slow, deliberate, just beyond the trees. Elias rose, rifle in hand. His shadow stretched long against the wall. "Someone found us," he whispered. And the firelight flickered once, as if warning them both that the night was far from over. Dawn came gray and heavy, the kind of light that hides more than it shows. Elias opened the cabin door and froze. The ground outside was marked with hoofprints, deep, fresh, circling like wolves. Someone had found them. He turned to Clara, still weak but awake. "Can you ride?" She nodded, clutching the blanket around her shoulders. "Then we ride now." He threw her a coat, saddled the horse, and within moments they were out, the cabin shrinking behind them, swallowed by fog and pine. The road wound down toward the dry flats, where the wind cut sharp as glass. Sand hissed across the trail, stinging their faces. Clara clung to him, the silver bracelet flashing in the rising sun. After an hour of silence, her voice came small against his back. "They said the land was cursed, that everyone who touched this bracelet met fire. But it belonged to my grandmother. I came here to find where she was born, to learn why my mother never spoke of this town." Elias's jaw tightened. "What's your family name?" "Hensley," she said, "from the Crow Mine region." He pulled the reins so hard the horse reared. "The Crow Mine?" he whispered. "Yes, why?" He stared across the desert, eyes hard. "That's where my family died." The wind rose again, moaning through the canyons like a memory. By midday, the horizon shimmered with heat. They stopped near an old water trough. Clara's hands trembled as she filled the cup. "Do you think they'll follow?" she asked. Elias didn't answer. He was already watching the ridge behind them. A flicker, sunlight on metal, rifles. "Down!" he shouted. The first shot ripped through the air, splintering the trough. Clara screamed as the horse kicked, bolting toward the dunes. Bullets chased dust behind them. Elias twisted in the saddle, firing 2 quick shots back. One man dropped, another fell to cover. They thundered through the desert, sand exploding beneath the hooves. Then the horse stumbled. A bullet had grazed its flank. Elias grabbed Clara, leaping as the animal fell, rolling hard into a rocky gully. Pain flashed white through his shoulder. He pushed himself up, gasping. Clara crawled to him, dirt streaking her face. "You're hit." "Not bad enough," he said, wincing. Above them, the gunmen regrouped. Voices echoed, closer. Elias scanned the slope. No cover but jagged stone. "We move, now." They ran, stumbling over rock and scrub, until the canyon narrowed into a slit of shadow. He shoved her ahead, pressing his back to the wall, rifle raised. The first attacker slid down after them, too fast. Elias fired once. The man collapsed. The second stopped short. Silence. For a moment, all they could hear was wind and the drip of blood hitting sand. Clara turned to him, breath ragged. "They'll come again." He nodded, eyes still on the ridge. "They always do." She hesitated, then said quietly, "You could have left me. Why didn't you?" He looked at her, face streaked with sweat and dust. "Because if I ride away now, I'll be running from the same fire forever." He tightened the strap on his rifle and glanced toward the endless dunes ahead. "If you ride with me," he said, voice rough, "there's no turning back." She met his gaze, afraid but steady. "Then I won't turn." And together they climbed back onto the horse, disappearing into the desert heat, unaware that the men behind them weren't the only ones following. By dusk, the desert had turned to gold. They rode through silence until the horizon bled into night. Elias's shoulder throbbed with each movement, but he said nothing. The wind carried the scent of smoke again, faint, familiar, and wrong. Clara pointed ahead. "There's a steeple." Through the haze stood an old church, half collapsed, its bell tower leaning like a man too tired to stand. They pushed the door open. Hinges moaned like ghosts. Inside, dust hung thick in the dying light. Wooden pews lay broken, the altar blackened by fire. Elias set his rifle down and collapsed onto a bench, breath shaking. Clara tore a strip from her sleeve, pressing it to his wound. "You should 'a' let me ride alone," he muttered. "You'd be dead if I did," she said, tying the cloth tight. He managed a faint smile. "So would you." Then her eyes caught something behind the altar, a charred wooden cross, half buried in ash. She brushed it off, revealing carved letters. Martha and Lily Ward, 1878. Her voice faltered. "These were your family?" Elias nodded once. "They prayed here the night the mine burned." He looked away. "I buried what was left of them out back. Thought if I built far enough away, the fire would forget my name." Clara knelt beside him, whispering, "Fire doesn't remember, Elias. People do." A sudden noise, boots crunching outside. Elias grabbed his rifle, signaling her to stay down. Through the cracked window, he saw lanterns approaching. 3, 4 men, faces covered in scarves, guns ready. A voice cut through the dark. "Ward!" "You got something that belongs to me!" Elias's blood ran cold. He knew that voice. Silas Crow, the man he once worked for, the man who owned the mine that killed his family, the man everyone said died in the fire. "Crow," Elias said under his breath, eyes hard, "I saw your grave." From outside came a laugh, low, bitter, alive. "You saw what I wanted you to see. You think a little fire can kill the devil?" Clara stepped forward, trembling but defiant. "You caused it, didn't you? The fire, the deaths, all of it." Crow's voice rose. "That mine was going to ruin me. I lit the fuse, and your grandmother helped me cover it up. That bracelet on your wrist, that was her payment." Clara froze, staring down at the silver band as if it burned her skin. "No, she couldn't have." Elias put a hand on her shoulder. "He's lying." Crow laughed again. "Am I?" The door burst open. Gunfire filled the church. Elias dragged Clara behind the pews. Wood splintered, glass shattered. He fired back, hitting one man through the doorway. Another bullet grazed his leg. He grunted, still steady. "Stay low," he shouted. Clara reached for a fallen pistol, her hands shaking. When another attacker charged in, she fired, missed, but the noise made him duck long enough for Elias to drop him. When the smoke cleared, only Crow remained, standing in the doorway, lantern in hand. His white beard flickered orange in the flame. His eyes, cold and sharp as broken glass. "You can kill me, Ward," he said calmly, "but you'll never wash off what you did. You told them the fire was an accident. You protected your own name." Elias's voice cracked. "You murdered children." Crow stepped closer. "And you buried the truth to sleep at night." The weight of those words fell heavy between them. Clara looked at Elias, searching his face. "Is it true?" she whispered. He couldn't answer. The truth was too tangled in guilt. He had believed the mine accident was his fault, that his negligence caused the fire, and for 20 years he carried that sin like a cross. Crow raised the lantern higher. "Let's finish what the fire started." He hurled it toward the pews. Flames erupted, roaring to life. Elias tackled Clara behind the altar as the ceiling cracked. Smoke choked the air. Sparks rained down. "Elias!" she cried. "We can't outrun it." He coughed hard, gripping her hand. "Then we fight it." He kicked open the back door, dragging her through the smoke. Outside, the night wind whipped the flames, but it also gave them breath. Crow followed, limping, revolver drawn. "You can't escape your curse, Ward!" he screamed. Elias turned, rifle trembling in his arms. "Maybe not," he said, "but I can end yours." They stood 10 paces apart, fire between them, sky lit like judgment. Clara's voice broke through the roar. "Don't do it, Elias! Don't let the fire decide again!" His finger tightened on the trigger. Crow sneered. "Go on, you'll just prove me right." For a moment, everything froze, the flames, the wind, even time itself. Then Elias lowered the rifle, eyes burning not from smoke, but from resolve. "No," he whispered, "some sins end with mercy." Crow blinked, stunned. Then the burning church behind him gave a final groan, and the roof collapsed. Elias shielded Clara as the fire swallowed the man whole. When the night went quiet again, all that remained was ash and the faint glimmer of silver under the stars. The rain came before dawn, soft, hesitant, like the sky itself was afraid to touch the ruins. The old church was gone, nothing left but smoke and a heap of glowing embers. Elias stood among them, rifle in hand, the light from the ashes painting his face in flickering orange. And then, from under a fallen beam, came a cough. Silas Crow was still alive. His clothes were scorched, his beard half burned, but his eyes, those cold, defiant eyes, still watched the world like he owned it. He tried to crawl, dragging himself through mud and ash, leaving a black trail behind. Elias walked toward him, step by step, the weight of 20 years pressing down with each one. Crow looked up and laughed, voice rasping like sandpaper. "Guess the devil don't want me yet." Elias raised the rifle. His hands were steady now, too steady. "This time," he said quietly, "you don't walk away." Behind him, Clara stumbled forward, face pale from smoke and exhaustion. "Elias, don't," she pleaded. "If you kill him, the curse wins." Crow coughed, spitting blood into the mud. "Curse," he hissed. "There ain't no curse, girl, only fools who believe in them." He looked back at Elias. "Go on, cowboy, do it. Put me down like you should have 20 years ago." The rain fell harder. Each drop hissed on the dying coals. Elias's finger hovered on the trigger. He saw his daughter's face, her small hands clutching the same silver bracelet now hanging from Clara's wrist. He heard his wife's voice, soft through the years. "Promise me, Elias, don't let hate build your home." His breath came shallow. Clara stepped closer, standing between him and Crow. "You said mercy doesn't fix the dead," she whispered, "but maybe it saves the living." Crow smirked weakly. "You think mercy changes ghosts." Elias lowered the rifle, slow, deliberate, until its barrel pointed to the earth. "No," he said, eyes glistening, "but it changes the living." For the first time, the wind stopped. Even the rain seemed to pause. Elias tied Crow's hands with the same rope once used to bind Clara. He dragged the man out from the wreckage, into the open plain where the gray morning waited. Down the road, a sheriff's wagon approached, one of the few men in this part of the world who still believed in law. Elias waved it down. The sheriff climbed out, staring at the scene. "Crow? Thought that bastard was dead." "Not yet," Elias replied, "but he's done running." They loaded Crow into the wagon, his curses fading with distance. And when the wheels rolled away, the field went quiet again, the kind of quiet that only comes after a storm. Elias stood there a long time, hat in hand, eyes on the smoke curling into the dawn. Clara stepped beside him, her face streaked with rain and soot. She reached out, taking his hand gently. "Maybe the fire's over now," she said. He looked down at her, weary but lighter somehow, as if some invisible weight had finally fallen away. "Maybe," he whispered, "or maybe it's just starting to heal." The clouds broke. A thin ray of sunlight fell through, touching the blackened earth. For the first time in 20 years, Elias Ward felt warmth that didn't burn. Morning crept over the valley, slow, golden, and merciful. For the first time in years, the air didn't smell of smoke. Only wet soil and pine. The kind of morning that makes a man believe the world can still start over. Clara stood by the doorway of the cabin, wrapped in one of Elias's old coats. Steam curled from the tin cup in her hands. The silver bracelet, blackened from fire, lay on the table beside her. Outside, Elias was already working, hammering new planks into a post. The board read, "Ward Ranch." The same words that once hung above his burned homestead. He straightened it, stepped back, and smiled for the first time in a long while. Clara walked toward him, her steps soft on the damp ground. "You're rebuilding?" she asked. He nodded. "Just a name for now. The rest'll come when it's ready." She handed him the cup of tea. He took it, fingers brushing hers, calloused, gentle. They didn't speak for a while. The quiet between them wasn't heavy anymore. It was peace. The sunlight slipped through the pines, painting everything in gold. Elias glanced at the bracelet on her wrist. "You still wear it?" Clara looked down, then unclasped it slowly. "It doesn't feel like mine anymore," she said. "It feels like a ghost that's done its haunting." He took it from her hand, weighing it in his palm, the silver dull but still beautiful. "It's not a curse," he murmured. "It's what's left when the fire's done. Truth." Clara smiled faintly. "Then maybe the truth belongs here." She placed the bracelet on the fence post beneath the new sign. The light caught it just right, and for an instant it shone like a blessing. Later, as the day warmed, Elias sat on the porch mending a saddle strap. Clara swept the floor inside, humming a tune she remembered from her mother. He watched her through the doorway, the way sunlight touched her hair, the calm in her movements. "Feels strange," he said finally. "What does?" she asked. "Quiet. After all the noise, quiet feels louder." She smiled. "Maybe that's what healing sounds like." He looked down, chuckling softly. "Never thought I'd see this place again without smoke in the air." "You built it once," she said. "You can build it again." He nodded, eyes far away. Not the same house, but maybe the same hope. As afternoon fell, they sat beneath the oak tree near the corral. 2 horses grazed beyond the fence, his old mare and another, young and restless. Elias gestured to it. "You'll learn on that one. She's got spirit, like her rider." Clara laughed, shaking her head. "I've never even sat a horse before." "Well," he said, tipping his hat, "best time to start's when you got nowhere else to go." He helped her climb up, steadying her as she found her balance. She almost fell, laughing, and he caught her arm. For a moment, they both froze, laughter fading into something quieter. Warmth, gratitude, unspoken things neither dared name. "You've got a steady hand," he said, stepping back. "Comes from holding on too long," she replied. Elias looked at her, eyes soft in the golden light. "Then maybe it's time to let go." They rode slowly around the corral, the air filled with the creak of leather and the rhythm of hooves. And as the sun began to set, the land that once felt cursed now glowed gentle and alive. He stopped the horse, gazing toward the horizon. "Strange," he said. "I thought this land hated me." Clara turned to him. "It never did. You just couldn't hear it forgive you." He smiled, a real one this time. "Guess we both had something to learn." The wind shifted, carrying the smell of rain far away, replaced by pine and promise. Elias tipped his hat, eyes closing briefly. "For the first time," he said, almost to himself, "the morning doesn't hurt." And the valley, quiet and bright, seemed to breathe again. The fire was long gone, but its glow remained, in the sky, in the soil, and somewhere deep inside the 2 souls who had walked through it. Elias sat by the porch that evening, his hat resting on his knee. The sun had melted into the hills, leaving only the slow dance of orange fading into blue. Beside him, Clara poured 2 cups of tea. The steam curled in the quiet air like ghosts made gentle. They didn't speak for a while. They didn't need to. Finally, Elias broke the silence. You know, he said softly, folks spend their whole lives looking for curses to blame, but maybe the only real curse is believing in one. Clara smiled, tracing the rim of her cup. Then what's left when you stop believing? He looked toward the horizon, where the light met the land. Maybe that's when you start living again. The wind carried the sound of horses in the distance, calm, steady, alive. The valley that once held nothing but sorrow now breathed easy, as if forgiving itself. Elias leaned back, his eyes half closed. "Maybe salvation doesn't come from miracles," he murmured, "but from the quiet kindness we give to one another." Clara nodded. "And maybe mercy's the hardest thing to learn, but the one worth learning most." The sky dimmed to a soft violet. The world felt still, as if waiting for something. Elias turned to her, the lines on his face gentler now. "You ever think," he said, "that maybe we were meant to find each other, not to fix the past, but to prove it didn't win?" She didn't answer, just reached over and took his hand. "If you were me, would you have pulled the trigger, or would you have let mercy speak instead?" Leave your thoughts on this Western tale in the comments. If this story touched your heart, please take a second to like the video and subscribe for more true Wild West stories. Tales of courage, second chances, and quiet redemption. Pour yourself a cup of tea or maybe a late-night coffee. Take a breath and tell me, what time is it where you're listening from tonight?